Well, got that wrong, didn't I? Or did I? That's the question. And I honestly did think I got it. If you've seen the last video of the coolant temperature sensor, you can see that there's a problem there. And my thought process behind it, I thought I was correct. But what I'm going to go through now is a complete process of now what I sat around for about an hour last night thinking about it, and then things started to make sense. Still no fault codes. So you remember those the two fault codes I had before were, because let's have a look, where did it say that? Here it goes. Now when I first got hold of it, the first fault codes was one or more signals transmitted by N47, which is ESP, which is the AVS unit, and BAS. Okay, they are implausible. All right. And the other one was from the electronic transmission control unit. Now, far as I'm concerned, last time I thought they were bullshit codes, and I'm going to say it again. I still think they are. And I'm not going to go down that road with experience I've had. With you look at the cars I've fixed on the videos, you'll see why I don't go down these roads. And what happened, I took it for about a 5-mile test drive. It never broke down. I went to go and pick my boy up from school because I wanted to test drive it again, make sure it doesn't break down when I give it back. And I probably got about half of the distance I did on that long run, and it stopped. It just lost power, cut out straight away, and these steerings on here are heavy, and I pulled up, went to start it, wouldn't start, so I had to walk down, pick my boy up, came back, see if it'd start again. It didn't start. Then my missus come up, and obviously I'm thinking, well, is it a fuel problem? And you start doubting yourself, and you do doubt yourself, because we had a fuel problem, if you remember, with the fuse I actually done. I didn't think it was, but we took my son home, went and got some fuel, and before I actually put the fuel in, I turned the key and it started. So that told me, and the fault codes weren't there to say it was that problem ever again. But the only fault code that did come back again was no CAN message was received from the control unit of the transmission 2211-1. And you're all thinking, well, Trev, you said that was a bullshit code last time. You're going to go down that road. Hell no am I going down that road. And I'm going to go through my process now of telling you why. Because I believe that code came after the fact, okay, of the problem that caused it. And I managed to get the car back. It broke down twice, and it came back with that fault code twice. I sat outside last night, and what I did do is I'm going to show you what my thought process of what I think it is anyhow, and what makes sense and why I didn't think it was this. I put my autel oscilloscope on there, and I put it on the crankshaft sensor, because something shuts those injectors down, something shuts that engine down, and the crankshaft sensor will do that. And that also, there won't be any communication with the transmission. We never had any fault codes in the transmission, so it can't be that problem. So that's why I'm not going down that road. So what I've done is I actually put 2 traces, 2 wires into the crank sensor, and what I read, I thought that's not right. And I don't know if it's because it's autel, but just looking at it, it didn't look right. And then I found a knowing good, which is what I thought it should look like, and it looks nothing like that, and I'll show you why on the oscilloscopes. And I'm hoping, I've got it on the Pico this time, because I spent a lot of money on Pico and I expect it to be good. So, but what was happening last night is I could actually then start to predict when it was going to cut out, and when it was doing it, it was when it was hot. So when I went and done that 5 mile run, the actual car was stone cold. When I went to pick my son up, we were still probably running, and it was at about 40 degrees. So remember, so it didn't have that extra time to get up to the temperature to cut out. And this is my thought process in how, remember, I've got no codes. I don't like that code. I'm not agreeing with it. So I've got to come up with an answer. And I'm sitting outside and I'm watching it cut out. And the one thing I do notice is I've got no fault codes coming back when it cuts out. None at all. And this is my thought process, because I haven't found the problem yet. I'm just telling you what I can see at the end of the day, and I'm really hoping I'm right, and I'm not going to look a wally here. But my thought process is while you're driving along in the car and the crankshaft sensor cuts out, there's no signal to the transmission, or it can't see it because it's cut out. Okay. And the first time it did it, it came up with the ABS. Well, there could have been a chance that when my mate was driving it, he had his foot on the brake. So there were two talking at the same time, transmission and ABS talking. And when it cut out, it said there was bad communication. This is my thought process. Remember, I've got nothing to go on now. And every time it cuts out last night, it left no fault codes. But I wasn't driving anywhere, and I never had my foot on the brake. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set the oscilloscope up, and I'm going to go for a drive, because I know it's going to break down again, and I can feel it. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch. I've got one trace in the 5 volt supply, so we know we've definitely got a 5 volt supply coming from the ECU. And I've also got a trace going into the signal wire going back to the ECU. So, and I know the earth's fine. Earth goes to its ground, it's to your bodywork. So the power's coming from the 5 volt supply is coming from the ECU. The reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that the 5 volt supply from the ECU doesn't stop before the 5 volt actual signal, because I want to know which one, because if it is, then I'm going to be looking at an ECU fault. But if it's still 5 volts when I'm there, and my signal wire goes to 0, can you see what we're looking at now? We're going to be looking at the crank sensor. I could be wrong here at the moment, but I'm going to do it as I'm going to go along and what I see. And but yeah, I've got no fault codes now, nothing. And as I say, it'll start now. Cold, brand cold in the morning, and I'll put money on it to fire up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what the sensor's looking like now, and then I'm going to give it a run. You're not coming with me, I'll go out on my own, and let's see what I've got after that. At least then I can press the space bar and stop it while I'm driving. And I ain't got to look on the autel, which has got, there's too much to think about, and I haven't got time, especially if it breaks down. I've got to park up, pull over, and I'm only going to be close anyhow, because I know how far I've got once this has got hot. Right, let me set the Pico up, and then we can start doing some testing and see if I'm right. Okay, getting ready to start the old test drive and breakdown time, which I know is going to happen. So I've got to pick my own special route where I'm not going to cause any hassles. I don't want to break down on a roundabout. I don't want to break down too far away, because I've got to wait 20 minutes, and I don't want to stop anywhere on the side of the road. Now, as you can see, cold, fired up first thing, beautiful. This is the picoscope at the moment, and we're running, as you can see, 5 volts, and my actual crank sensor is running at 492. It's probably a little bit higher than that because I'm not fully on there, but that wasn't what I got off the autel last night, so we're going to see if there was a bit of a difference there. Don't know if there's a bad connection or what, but that's what it should be looking like. So I want to see which one breaks down first of what I think the problem is. So if it breaks down here, there's going to be an ECU issue, and if this one breaks down, then, which is probably slightly after, or if this shows 5 volts and this breaks down, then obviously that's my problem. Right, wish me luck, here we go. Let's give it a bit more time scale, it's taking too much memory. And I'm going to go for a run. If I break down, it's not if, it's when, and I'll show you what we got from there. Right, here we go. Okay, it broke down. I did a quick run round, and I roughly worked out the time it took for it to actually break down on me, and I actually managed to park up outside the house, and guess what? I've got no fault codes, none at all. So I think if I was driving, I would get that other fault code, and the reason I think that other fault code is which is the engine speed coming into the engine ECU, which is read by the gearbox. That's why I think that code comes up. It's the only explanation I've got, because I've got no codes in the transmission. But this is the proof. This is the money shot. As you can see, I've still got 5 volts. So the 5 volt supply is going into this sensor. My earth's good. Well, you can tell my earth's good because I've got still 5 volts on my sensor. But what happened is the crank sensor just dropped out. Can you see that? Perhaps just let me just open it up a bit more. Oh, Trevor, you're a happy boy now. Right, let's just get this little bit here. Right, let's just move that out of the way. Right, as you can see, I know because you know the flywheel's going round, because the gearbox would still be moving it, and as you can see, the crank sensor has just stopped, totally stopped. So it's not, it's starting to look as though here it's starting to fail, and then obviously the crank sensor has failed because it's not pulling it to ground. So it's going backwards and forwards, and that's going to be enough for, and I know I've got a good ground because I've tested it, and I've actually loaded the system on the ground side. So if the ground was going to fail, it would have failed when I loaded it, and I've got no voltage drop on the ground side. But that's good enough for me, just like that coolant temperature sensor, to cool this. I was agitated yesterday, I was, because I thought what I missed. Because I never felt the problem, and I didn't feel the problem. But the coolant temperature sensor was at fault, wasn't it? And this is only gut feeling. I mean, you can have all this gear. I mean, you can have this, the Pico. You can have all this gear, but if you haven't got an idea of how this is working, and I mean, fixing cars is easy these days, isn't it? I mean, the boys I watch, some of the stuff they're actually finding. I mean, yeah, they'll tell you they found it in 10 minutes. Really. But I mean, if you're just looking at your, as I said, if you looked at your scanner and you saw those two codes that came up, I mean, obviously I looked at it differently, but if you look at those as though that was the reason why this thing broke down, you're going to be on a hiding, aren't you? Because by the time you've changed it to the transmission module or the ABS module, and you're probably 2-3 grand in and it's still doing it, it's not going to get you anywhere. But that's what I thought those codes were. They were after the problem, but the ECU never saw the problem. And this happens, what, you think about it, we're running what, very, 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 very small amount of time for this to actually break down. And this is where the crankshaft sensor has failed. And as I can say, I've still got 5 volts going to it. So what's happened is the flywheel fell off and it stopped reading it. So obviously 5 volts, which means I must still have a good earth. I still must have a good power supply. So the only explanation I've got here is the crankshaft sensor's failed or the flywheels fell off. That's the only explanation you've got for that failure. So I hope that helped. I feel a lot better. If you enjoy them, then I say, if you want to subscribe, and it gives me a bit more get out of bed, and I'll make some more videos. But as I say, I don't put the run-of-the-mill stuff on because everyone's doing that. But this is a great feeling. So I'll catch you on the next one. I've got a couple more coming through at the moment, where there's hardly any information on the vehicles, or as I say, you Google this one, you tell me what you find. Nothing, like most of the stuff I do. Anyway, thanks for watching. The sun's out. I've got a crankshaft sensor to order, and I'm going to love you and leave you. And if you have watched it all the way, thanks. As I say, you've just shared the way I feel at the moment. Right.